Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Babla Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we are analyzing some recent happenings, killings, abduction and destruction of properties within the context of the more than 8-year-long armed conflict raging in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We're looking at the current situation on ground and efforts that have been made so far to restore peace and normalcy in those two regions, and we are also looking at some key issues with regards to the forthcoming presidential elections. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. Our first guest today is Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. He's a political analyst, member of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, major proponent of the progressive CPDM ideology, and of course the third option. We're going to discover or talk more about what the third option is all about. And he's also a medical professional. He's an entrepreneur and an educationist, president of St. Louis University Institute. You're welcome to the program.
Oh, for listeners.
Right. About the recent incidents in the northwest, southwest regions of the country, about 6 persons or so have been killed in the past days in the course of the crisis, in the context of the crisis in the two regions, and a journalist who was also abducted, Fred Ruben, but who was later released, or I should say he escaped from captivity according to family sources, and things like that are still going on in those two regions.
It's really so unfortunate that we are going through these things, and problems started some way back 2016, 2017, 2018, and there was this major national dialogue in 2019 September, I think, that was supposed to address the issues. But if the problems are still continuing now, then there's a huge problem. It shows that there was something that was not properly done, and that's why we are having this kind of issues. So we had a problem, yes. We said we were going to solve the problem, yes. But the process of solving the problem and how we tried to solve the problem was exactly not right. And that is why we are still having problems. And it's just so unfortunate that we failed to do the right thing in truth and in love. It doesn't matter what the problems are, but when you speak the truth in love and sincerely look for a way out, I said sincerely, not playing tricks. When you sincerely look for a way out, you will find a solution. And above all, from primary school, I learned that a stitch in time saves 9. But we don't have that wisdom in Cameroon, and we continue to make mistakes that are very costly to other people.
Are you saying that what has been done so far, what is being done so far on the ground, do not reflect the realities on ground, do not reflect the actual situation on ground, or do not meet some basic requirements in conflict resolution?
No. If we continue to do things the way we are doing in Cameroon, the Anglophone problem is just one out of many. And if we are not careful and try to change our strategies, we will add more of those problems. Because we are not solving problems, we are not following principles and processes of how problems are solved. When you want to solve a problem, I'm sure you know about the problem tree. You attend to the roots of the problem. But the major national dialogue was attending to the leaves of the problem, and that's why the susung is still growing. That's why the eucalyptus, when you cut the branches, it grows back. Solve the problems at the roots. If you refuse to solve the problems at the roots for one reason or the other, then don't expect that you have a solution overnight. It's not going to happen, because as long as the taproot is still there and the other roots are still there, the nutrients are still there and so on, the problem will only get worse. And it started as a small thing. Anglophones were agitating and so on, and then the force came in and so on. And if we are looking at the whole country, so to speak, you see there's this problem between the political parties and the ruling party and the government, problems everywhere. Sardina, Tontina, Bamilekes are being kicked around. Northerners are agitating left, forward, center. Even in the Beti land, there is no peace. And amongst the youth, there is really no peace. The country is spinning around in circles, and we have to sit down and make sure we address the problems of each community, be they youth, be they whoever, and then try to solve the problems of the common good. That is the major thing that is happening. Put money in the pockets of youth by giving them jobs, giving them skills. That's, we need to come up with some kind of a package that solves problems for everybody. But the Anglophone problem is special. Now, the way you should understand what is going on is Cameroon is like a dining table. I've been giving this example for long. Cameroon is like a big dining table on which we have put a tablecloth. And that tablecloth represents all the problems that are affecting all the sons and daughters of Cameroon. And then on that tablecloth, we have another dish, another achuk dish or eru dish and so on, which represents specifically the Anglophone problems. So in the course of genuinely solving the Anglophone problems, you inadvertently solve the other problems that are affecting the other communities. So if we don't do this and accept to do this, we can go on for 100 years, there will be no peace in Cameroon.
What's your reading of the fact that for over 8 years, the situation has persisted, but more particularly, some decisions taken by some persons that we just call separatists or pro-independence fighters or whatsoever, and the decisions are being implemented, are being respected. I'm talking, for example, about Ghost Down every Monday. Respected all across the globe, except for some, all across the two regions, except for some towns like Limbe and parts of Boya and parts of Kumba and so on.
Well, this group tries to, it looks for ways and means of exerting pressure on the nation and keep telling everybody, the government included, everybody, that there's still an unsolved problem. So they use it as a tool to hold everybody by the testes to say, please, we are still here, the problem is still hanging, attend to this problem. And when you do, and when you have cotton in your ears, when you have wax in your ears, and you don't want to actually look at the problem either because of ego or whatever, or you don't know how to solve the problem, I don't know what, but we are saying there is a problem. Attend to the problem the way problems are attended to the world over, and the problem will be solved. And when you don't attend to the problem in time and do it right, using truth in love, then the cancer continues to decay. That is the situation. And what we are finding in the Northwest and Southwest now is what I learned from late Manyong Peter Kings. I learned it from him. I've never known about that. He said there was that problem called, how did he term it? He called it the dogs of war phenomenon. The dogs of war phenomenon is this. A problem starts like it started in the Anglophone regions, and then there were people in the diaspora that were kind of like giving orders, and the people on the ground were following those orders. As long as they see that chain of command, the situation can be managed. But as the boys and everyone else are carrying the guns and begin to taste of the power and make their money in one way or the other and kick other people around and begin to feel that sense of power, then they begin to break away from that command chain, and the people abroad no longer have a foothold on them, and everything goes out of the window. There's chaos everywhere. And when you reach that point of dogs of war, where the boys no longer respect their masters, it's very chaotic, and you need to walk around like you are walking on eggs, otherwise you will not be able to solve the problem, and this thing can drag on for 50 years.
Retain that, as many other persons have said before now, we need to go to the root causes of the problem to be able to address it properly. Let's go to the newsstands now, and we're looking at what the newspapers reported this week. This is the press review. The Horizon reports that civil society leaders from the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon who recently met in South Africa have told the Yaoundé administration to initiate a sincere and transparent dialogue to end the conflict. Detained separatist leader Sisiku Ayok Tabe, in an exclusive interview with Newswatch, gives President Paul Biya 4 conditions for a ceasefire. He also shared with Newswatch his experience at the Yaoundé Principal Prison 8 years on, the outcome of his past meetings with Cameroon government officials, twice in 2020, once in 2021, and thrice in 2022, and his resolute stance on the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions today, while stating that the imprisonment of the Nairo 10 remains illegal, arbitrary, and unconstitutional. Sisiko Ayuk Tabe maintains that President Paul Biya has no moral ground to grant them clemency. Rather, according to him, he has an adjudicated obligation not only to release but to compensate them. About what it qualifies as terrorism in the northwest and southwest regions, Cameroon Tribune says fear has changed side, indicating that over 20 separatist leaders have been arrested in the United States of America. In another issue, Cameroon Tribune tells its readers that the Cameroon government has gone offensive in the reconstruction of the crisis-stricken far north region of Cameroon, affected by the Boko Haram insurgency. The Herald Tribune, after Ebola, Southwest welcomes start of works on Kumba gas plant as Bamenda is set for production. The Guardian posts at Grant Thank You meeting for Bangem Nguti Road. Kupe Maninguba renews pact with Biya. According to the paper, the division pledges landslide victory for the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) at the forthcoming presidential election, with key elite Minister Elung Polche saying that the road project is a reward for the division's loyalty to the Biya regime. And the reporter says the Kupe Maninguba division has pledged unflinching support for Biya's candidacy. According to the scoop, Minister Elung Polche is mobilizing the Kupe Maninguba division for President Paul Biya's victory. And in the Guardian Post, Mengot Victor Arin Kongo is qualified as a veritable promoter of national integration and living together. The Sun reports that the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front SDF political party, Honorable O.C. Joshua, is in bilateral and multilateral networks pushing justice and equality. As reported by Municipal Update, President Paul Biya's envoy, Prime Minister Joseph Jangote, honored Gabon president's inauguration. Cameroon Insider reports that petty businesses are in trouble in Cameroon. The scarcity of coins in Cameroon has become a silent but pressing challenge, disrupting everyday transactions and adding strain to the lives of ordinary people. Vendors, motor taxi riders and cab drivers express growing frustration over the scarcity of coins. The Advocate, Empowering Youth and Women 2025 Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises SME Forum charts an inclusive entrepreneurship path. In an exclusive interview with The Advocate, Dr. Denis Foritia says objectives were attained. Welcome back. We are still with our guest, Dr. Nick Nguyen. Dr. Nick, The Horizon reports calls for a sincere and transparent dialogue coming from the Anglophone leaders who met in South Africa, and they are telling the Cameroon government to organize a sincere and genuine or transparent dialogue to solve the problem. Is that the way out?
I think they are right. They are right. I mean, that's the scientific way of doing it. If there's a problem in your family, in your business, or in the nation, just sit down and look at each other face to face, eyeball to eyeball, sit along on a round table. The concept of the round table is that you are all equals and discuss these matters. I mean, there's no taboo in it. And what I can say is that this problem is going to be solved by the next government. It will be solved, and it will be solved like this: a genuine dialogue, not a monologue. You cannot have a monologue and give it a term dialogue. A dialogue means the two parties that are in conflict are actually talking to each other, but you cannot have a discussion among friends without the others and call it a dialogue, which is what happened in the major national dialogue, so to speak. So we must get it right.
The problem, you say, will be solved by the next government, the government that should emerge from the forthcoming presidential election. What's your reading of the tense atmosphere leading up to the presidential election with accusations from opposition political parties who are saying that the administration is attempting in one way or the other to disqualify or hinder some persons from showing up, including the CRM National President, Professor Maurice Kamto, and others.
It's a very confusing situation, and I hope that the confusion doesn't create chaos. But the bottom line is that, we should be able to do things, respecting the law. Everyone, be it the government, the people on the street, or the political parties, just respect the law and try not to be more complicated than it's already on the ground. I can understand. Even I myself, I mean, I've gone to school. I'm not in law, but as someone who can reason, I still don't see those elected officials that Professor Kamtos keeps talking about, because he himself, in about 3 different videos,
some have crossed the carpet from the SDF to join the CRM.
Yeah, that's fine. If they crossed, but is it in the books of the nation that they are now CRM? There's no way the CRM can have militants if they don't get them at the ballot, on running under the banner of the CRM. So that's my understanding. So if the question is this, if we go to Parliament, would we see the name CRM somewhere with those parliamentarians sitting and saying, this is our banner, we are CRM? So these are the kind of things that can cause war and confusion in the country for no good reason. And I still don't understand why they boycotted the elections, knowing that they were going to come to this kind of a thing. But the good news is that I think that the CRM has the opportunity of going to the presidential elections by lobbying one of those parties that are in parliament, that have councillors or whatever, by lobbying to run on their ticket. And for that to happen, I understand that Professor Maurice Kamto has to resign from the MRC and join that other party as a militant, and his support, his MRC support, of course, can fall behind that, but not as MRC or whatever, but as individuals.
But I've maintained that the party is going to present a candidate based on grounds on the fact that the mandate of the elected officials is not tied to a political party. So when you resign from one party, you join the other, you still hold your mandate, you're still a parliamentarian, you're still a senator, you're still a councillor, a mayor, and so you carry your mandate with you.
Yeah, okay, I love that. That sounds great.
That is the argument.
If that's the argument, is nice. Then if we follow the same logic, I would say that there are 367 or 70 parties in Cameroon, right? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Which means that we will have 370, political, it's just unfortunate, political parties running for the presidency. So all those other parties, please just go and pick a councillor, left, forward, center, and then you're good to go.
Which is not an easy task anyway, to pick a political councillor from another party to your own.
So you see, it was easier for the MRC to have gone for the elections and they would have had the majority. That's what they say. They would have had the majority.
We are where we are today, and I want us to talk about the third option.
Yeah,
this is something that you've been talking about, and there are a lot of questions about this. Some people put it, this Dr. Nick's third option.
Yeah. I'm glad they wear it around my neck like a chain. Yeah, it's my third option, because the Lord put the wisdom in my head and I spoke it through my lips to the nation.
Give us an understanding of that third option.
Yeah, the third option is something that is really crazy. It came from my toolbox when I was meditating. I meditate a lot, and so this thing came to me, and it is a follow-up on the progressive CPDM ideologies. So the third option is just the platform or the tool that we will use to execute the programs of the progressive CPDM. And even before we get lost in all these things, let us be very clear. You know that even though I'm in the CPDM, most of the people in the CPDM don't like me. Yeah, I know. I'm in the CPDM, but it should be clear that it should be understood by the public that many people in the CPDM don't like me, and I understand that.
Because you don't speak like the rest of the.
That's right.
The militants.
Jesus says that be in the world, but not of the world. So I'm in the CPDM, but not of that mindset. I'm in the CPDM, yes. but with my own mindset.
In the progressive.
Yeah, I have a progressive mindset.
Is it a wing? Is it a faction of the party? Is it?
It's not a wing. It's not a, no. It's not a wing. It's not a faction. It's just that, you know, people think that when you are in a political party, you are supposed to wear only one thinking cap. That's where we all go wrong. You know, thinking is a spectrum. So if we look at the way political parties are spread all over the nation, you have the extreme right and the extreme left. The extreme left in those days would have been the SDF, but now I don't know where they are. They are moving closer to the CPDM. They are very much more like the CPDM now. And then the extreme right, the extreme right is the CPDM. So all the other parties are found in between. Now, so it's a spectrum. It's the way you think, the way you align with the people in power, the way all those factors come into play. Now,
so it's a line of thought.
It's the line of thought within the CPDM, which sounds more like you are an opposition, un opposant dans la maison, so to speak. But you are not opposition. It's just that you want problems to be solved.
You're thinking differently.
You are thinking differently.
So
but
people think
that when you are in the CPDM, it is a taboo to think. It's a taboo to come up with suggestions. No, President Paul Biya wants you to think. President Paul Biya wants you to solve
Probably
problems.
Because those who have been thinking, like you're saying, some of them have been either kicked out of the party or kind of reduced to a certain corner.
Yeah, they could have, and I think I know about 2 or 3 of them. But don't forget that they're all different.
Leon Taylor, who has been calling for the CPDM Congress, and that the mandate of the president of your party and others who are there now is illegal because...
Well, let's not go into that, but the bottom line is this. The Cameroonian population, it is about common good. The population wants its problems solved. Un point, un trait. Whether they are solved by Biya, solved by who, solved by a 93-year-old, on s'en fout. The population has problems, and all they are interested in that their problems should be attended to. That is what the population needs.
And that's what you've been saying about the third option.
Yes.
That is a problem-solving perspective.
Correct.
Tell us more about this.
Correct.
Help us to understand this third option that you have been preaching.
So it works like this. President Paul Biya has the power. And the thing is, yes, he has been there for 42, 43 years. And the way the power is distributed in the nation, he has the power from the people, and then he appoints people to help him as ministers, directors, and what have you. But the unfortunate thing that has happened, and why people blame him, is that he appointed people, number 1, who are incompetent, number 2, who don't respect the population, number 3, who are not proactive, and number 4, who don't know how to grow wealth, number 5, who don't know how to create jobs for people, number 6, these are people who just go around and kick others around in their buttocks and do whatever in the name of the president. So there's a whole lot of things that the population is not happy about, and that is the truth, because you know, President Paul Biya, sometimes people think that he's God. He's not God. He's just a human being like you and I, with 2 eyes, and he eats food just like you and I. He sleeps, and he has worries just like you and I. He has national worries. He has family worries. He has worries about his health.
Some of your comrades have made him to look like a god.
That is where
channeling everything on his name.
Good. That's where the mistake comes. On high instructions.
To buy a pencil on high instructions.
Yes. When somebody wants to get away with issues, they hang it on the president. You know, let's put it this way. You know that President Paul Biya has not allowed anybody to steal money from the budget, right? But when they are stealing money, they don't ask the president. But when they are doing things on the ground and things are going to go wrong or something and so on, they transfer the responsibility to the president. Like there was a time, and I was so pissed off about that. You know, the current Speaker of the House, he went up to his village up there in the north somewhere, and they were having this big meeting, a CPDM meeting in a hall, and he was presiding. And I think there was a couple of people who from the floor, they presented their problems. Say, look, we don't have schools, we don't have water, we don't have this. And then him as the third strong man in the nation, so to speak, instead of saying, okay, I will see how we solve this problem, we should do this, do this, do this, he said, je vais dire au président. You see, everybody, even to clean kata from your nose, you have to go and tell the president. And that is the mindset that has killed everybody. The president is not God. The president gives you power.
Is that what you want to change with the third option?
Correct. That is exactly it. You know, the president is there. He has the power. He gives you the power. And then, to those of you to whom he has given the power, you go out and solve the problems for real. Don't go saying the president, calling the president. I know one minister from the Southwest, as the president said, as every day, as the president said, but he never tells you what he is saying himself. And when somebody starts with, as the president said, just know that he wants to nail you. He's telling you, he wants to deceive you. Take responsibility. You know the disease that most Africans suffer from? Irresponsibility and ignorance. So people have power and they know what they have to do, but they're irresponsible, and then they transfer that irresponsibility to President Paul Biya, and that is what has to stop.
So how is this your third option going to change that?
It's going to change that in this sense. We have to say it and say it clearly without mincing our words, without chewing our words, without biting our lips, that unfortunately the technique that President Paul Biya has used over the years to pick his ministers, pick his directors, and so on, has not been the best. He has picked people based on some values that are not productive. He didn't look at their capacities. He didn't look at what they have done for themselves. He didn't look at what they have done for their community. He didn't look at what they have been doing for the nation. And he just appointed them either because they were relatives, they were from his area, or they were his past classmates, just something that didn't really tie, that it doesn't hold water. And at the end of the day, these people have become a liability, and that's where we are today. They have not solved the problem, because if they had been solving the problem, and don't tell me it's because of lack of money, it's not lack of money, it's lack of capacity. If they have been solving the problems, we will not be where we are today. And problems came to a head where every Tom, Dick, and Harry could see the dirt in Yaoundé, the dirt in Douala everywhere, the bad roads and so on. You know, like they said, the king is naked and you couldn't hide it. So we came to a point where it was clear to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that the government had failed. And with that, we are saying that we cannot continue like that. And the next government that is coming is going to be a government that has capacity, a government that is responsible, a government that knows what it's doing and solves problems, a government that is not going to be spending government money without being accountable. I mean, for instance, sorry, all ministers will have to buy their cars, buy their fuel, pay their cooks, pay for their electricity from their pockets, and they're not going to be feeding fat on the taxpayers' money. So these are some things that are going to happen. And then when it comes like to directors would apply for the jobs and they will be selected based on their capacities. And anybody from the diaspora or anywhere from the north or wherever, you can apply and get the job based on your skills and capacity to solve problems, not this talking. You know, there's a lot of people, when you look at the government and all whatnot, there are a lot of people who just make a lot of noise, talk on television, praise Biya, President Paul Biya, il est galant, and they become ministers. President Paul Biya didn't make you a minister or a director to be singing a choir, il est beau. He wants you to solve problems. So this il est beau, all that rubbish will stop.
Is it convincing that you are looking at all these things and thinking about bringing all these things into reality in Cameroon with President Paul Biya, who has been in power for more than 4 decades and has not been able to do all these things that you're saying?
Yes, he's not been able to do all these things that he's saying, because if we all look at President Paul Biya, you always have to look at you know, like I'm with you. I need to sharpen my psyche to actually study Jonathan. What kind of a character is Jonathan? So we all know that President Paul Biya, as a leader, he leads from the back. You know, you know, if you have seen these shepherds, the ones who lead cows or sheep, you know, when you are leading sheep, you lead from the front. You understand, and then the sheep follow you. When you are herding cows, you herd from the back. The cows move to the front, because cows are much smarter than sheep. So the cows move to the front, and you, the leader, you stay at the back. Just check. That's what happens. So President Paul Biya is a leader who chose to lead from the back. He gives you the opportunity to go out there and make things happen. Unfortunately, he picks people who are supposed to help him. Instead of going out there and attacking the world and making sure they are solving problems and getting things done, they instead run and stand behind him. And then they leave the flock to be wandering. So that's why the country doesn't seem to have a sense of direction, because people who are supposed to be out there in the field making things happen, they instead run and stand behind President Paul Biya. They cannot tell you that this is what I'm doing and take responsibility. As the president said. I mean, no, that's bullshit.
No, you're talking about a government of technocrats.
Yeah.
No.
And entrepreneurs.
And the questions, some of the questions that have been coming up are, how are you going to implement this? Should President Paul Biya effectively emerge winner in the forthcoming presidential election? How are you going to implement this? Because he's going to win with the people who are there with him. The ministers who are head of the CPDM Central Committee, campaigning everywhere and so on. He's going to win with this team.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to put aside this team and then bring in the technocrats?
Well, God is going to do things differently. When I say God, people start saying, that your thing, that your God, that your God. Forget it. Well, I'm a man of faith, and you're going to see things happen differently. Actually, all these things I'm telling you, and you can see when I'm talking to you about, I don't chew my words because, I pray about it before I say it. And the things I'm telling you today, they are revealed to me, and if you doubt me, that's your problem. But just know, there are a lot of things that I cannot say on TV now, but just know that what I'm telling you will come to pass. And then, no, let me not say it, let me not say it, but just know that what I'm telling you will come to pass. If you believe, fine. If you don't believe, no problem. Wait and see.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
Effectively, Cameroonians will be waiting to see what will happen in the forthcoming presidential election, and what happens after that. But there have been some polls, there have been some surveys carried out by English Cameroon for United Cameroon, for example, showing that President Paul Biya is not very competitive as candidate for the CPDM, and highlighting other persons like the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gutes, who seem to be more competitive, and other personalities, including former Prime Minister Philemon Yang, they seem to be showing that President Paul Biya is not very competitive.
Yeah, he can do his study. He has a right. He has the democratic right to set up his study the way he wants and come up with his result. But the bottom line is that John Gute is not going for the elections. Philemon Yang is not going for the elections. President Paul Biya is the one who is going for elections. So carry on with your study, but it changes nothing.
Right. So tell us,
Cameroonians
listening to you now, we want to have a clear perspective, a clear idea of how this third option can benefit them in terms of changing their living conditions.
Great.
Solving the multiple socio-economic, political, and security problems that we have in Cameroon today.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is the best part of it. Yeah. Like we said, we have to understand the third option as to understand the third option. Again, let's revise what the first and second are, so that people can understand why the third option is better and the only way. The first option will be that President Paul Biya goes for presidential elections in his present condition. That is, he goes in as the presidential candidate with this current government, current directors, and everything as it is. And we have all said that for 43 years, this current arrangement as it is has not delivered. And therefore, if they're going to go for elections as they are now without any change, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can say that nothing will change and the roads will continue to be as bad as they are. Corruption is going to continue as it has been, and nothing is going to change. And we're just going to continue down the drain, and the hate speech is not going to abate at any time soon. So the bottom line is the first option is not acceptable and has been rejected by Cameroonians because they've tested it. They say it's not good. It's not palatable at all. And we say it's not palatable because the people that President Paul Biya put there don't have capacities to solve problems. Whether you hate me for that, you can hate me for that, that's your cup of tea. They don't have what it takes to solve problems. Option number two, which is what everybody was expecting, was that the opposition should be strong enough and know what they are doing, come together, fuse together, put one strong candidate that has the capacity to solve problems. Don't put a strong candidate based on emotions and so on. So you have to look for someone who can actually solve problems and then rally behind the person, rally the nation behind the person to challenge President Paul Biya and grab the power out of President Paul Biya's hands. Grabbing power is not good, is great, that's just the part A. But you must have the capacity to solve the many problems that are everywhere. If you don't have that capacity, you will still fail. And what is making people so unhappy is that, number one, the opposition has demonstrated its weakness. It doesn't seem to have a sense of direction. The candidates are all very weak. Yes, they talk very nicely, but the Cameroon of today is not a Cameroon of yesterday where you just come and make beautiful speeches and people clap for you. You, number one, have to show what you've done for yourself. Number two, you have to show what you've done for your community and for others. Number three, how many jobs have you created? How many people do you have on your payroll? Have you ever created jobs for people? How many people have you fed, so to speak? I keep saying, Jesus, just before he left, said, Peter, feed my sheep. So how have you been feeding the sheep? You pretend that you can only feed the sheep when you are the president. You say that you are a liar. So we need to look at how people have been handling these small things and study their characters very carefully. If you make a mistake on that and vote somebody who has never fed one goat or lamb, then he's not going to feed 30 million. Now, what is the third option? We come to a place and say, okay, let us try to make a brew out of what we have on the table. We are trying to build a cathedral with the stones. I mean, we're not going to bring stones from elsewhere. What do we have on the table? We have President Paul Biya. We have his old ministers. We have the opposition. But how can we, and we have the population, and we have the diaspora. How do we, rearrange these things so that we can solve our problems? The main goal is to be able to solve the problems of Cameroonians. Provide jobs for youth, 1 million jobs every year. There will be presidential debate. Everybody in that presidential debate should be able to tell you and clearly, without chewing their words, how they can create 1 million jobs, great jobs for youth every year. How they will put money in the pockets of the youth, how they would do our roads, how they would improve on our agriculture, all those things, how they will improve on the economy of the nation, how they would protect the Cameroon nation from invaders from abroad. You see this new colonialism thing and so on. How are you going to protect the people? So there are all sorts of questions. How are you going to bring security back? These are the questions that people have to answer, and those are the questions that the third option is going to face, and the third option can answer those questions for you very beautifully. It's not just the question of answering the question, the issue of answering the question just because we're on television. Tell you specifically how this problem will be solved, how that one will be solved, and so on. Bring any problem and we'll tell you the solution. And this is the beautiful part about it, because the solutions to all these problems lie in the hands of technocrats and entrepreneurs. And those technocrats and entrepreneurs are pulled from the general population of Cameroon, including those of the diaspora. You're looking for people who have capacity. You're not going to be paying attention to which party they come from. No, we have John. John, what can you do? John, you have skills in which area? We pick John and say, John, please lead the team and pick other people who are smart like you to solve this particular problem for us. For instance, we have problems of internet in Cameroon. How can we solve? We have Camtel with everything. How can we solve the problem of internet in Cameroon? How can we solve the problems of electricity? How can we solve the problems of poor education in Cameroon? How can we solve the problem of importing rice, wheat, and so on in Cameroon? Specific problems. Put people who have the capacity to attack those problems and solve them, and we are done with all this nonsense.
Right, Dr. Nick William, thank you so much for the insights you've shared with us today. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you very much. The beautiful thing about it is, as we start picking the technocrats and the entrepreneurs, we are not going to be asking the head of the SDF whether you think we should pick them. No, your contribution is not important. We pick the people as individuals because of their capacity, not because of their parties.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Meet our second guest after this transition. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Our second guest today, Michael Taki, the chairman of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, joins us right now from London in the United Kingdom. You're welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you very much to Jonathan Babila for giving me this opportunity once more. My name is Michael Takie, the chairperson of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, CCFGA. And thank you and good evening, dear listeners.
Right, you're out of the country, but you have your ears and your eyes on ground back home, following up the happenings, particularly in the two predominantly English-speaking northwest and southwest regions of the country. And this week we recorded some killings and abduction going on in those two regions, and the situation remains quite volatile. What's your perspective of the current situation in the northwest and southwest regions?
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I think it's very sad that 8 years and counting, the English-speaking regions of our country, Cameroon, are facing this level of violence. I think, like I said before here on your program, these are just some of the things that we hear, and unfortunately, lives are being lost on a daily basis. And before I proceed, I think my heart goes to the bereaved families. And it's unfortunate that people are dying for something that the government can sort out within the shortest possible time. But they keep giving a blind eye and lives are being lost. I mean, they look at the case of the ID in, I think, Muyenge, somewhere in Moyuka subdivision. This is very dangerous. When you have a situation where people have resorted to these methods of killing, life becomes very unpredictable. You don't know where you're gonna meet your fate, whether it's just next to your backyard or just along the street where you're just walking, like improvised devices and stuff. So it's very sad, and it is the government, on the other hand, they are the ones who are, I would say, claim to have control of the people. They should be taking the responsibility or making sure that there is peace. But again, they are not doing enough to resolve these issues, and people are dying on a daily basis. It's absolutely bad. And I think, you know, every life lost, no matter who they are, is regrettable. Yet we don't have investigations. The government doesn't come in to investigate these killings, these abductions, to even try and put some measures in place to solve them. Not that they can actually be solved as such without looking into the core issues that are causing these problems. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Thank you.
Right, you seem to be throwing all the blame on the government, but with regards to the killing of soldiers, civilians, destruction, abduction, kidnapping, and all the atrocities going on in those two regions, government authorities are also blaming those who are persisting to continue with the cessation war, cessation conflict, civilians who have taken up guns and are fighting for the restoration of the independence of former British Southern Cameroons.
Thank you for that comment. I think the point I'm making here is not really supporting anyone who is involved in any atrocities, especially violence-wise. It goes on both sides. Most of these killings on the side of those who advocate for cessation, I think I would say we have to be very careful. We know that the cause for, I would say, independence, as they call it, has been highly infiltrated. We have a lot of criminals that operate right now in Cameroon in the form of, I would say, in quote, amber boys. And these are criminals. You know, these are criminals. And if they are criminals and we have a government in place, the government should be able and capable of resolving this, solving this. We have a government. If we were in a country where there's no government, I would say fine. But at this stage, I think the only person that I know that I can address, because the rest I would say they are bandits, they are just rogues. Like I said, you have an improvised explosive device, IED. Now, for somebody to do that, they are criminal. You know, they kill soldiers, and some of these soldiers, to be honest with you, some of these soldiers are good people who are just trying to keep the peace. You know, they are good people who are just trying to make sure that the citizens are safe. And you have a situation where they are being killed just because they are trying to make sure that there is a level of normalcy around the level of the civilian. And it's unfortunate, but the government, in this case, has to address these issues, security issues. Yes, those who are doing this, we strongly condemn their acts as well. But again, someone has to resolve this. And there is no way you can say, whoever they are, these rogue and bandits, they are out for destruction. That is what I would say. They are out for destruction. You can't ask them to resolve this issue. You can't. Some of them, it is their own. It's become their own way of life. And if you look at the key of this violence, the government always has a very huge part in it. Had they get to grips with these issues when they, first of all, started, we wouldn't be here today. So no matter how somebody looks at them, yes, we have criminals on the ground, we can condemn them as much as we can. But in every civilized or every society, they are always criminal. And governments are there to protect the people. They are there to resolve some issues as such. So yes, I'm not taking sides, or I'm not like supporting or saying what these guys are doing is correct. But what I'm saying here is that the government needs to resolve or look for a way to account for who is causing all this mayhem in our community.
Right. So, your organization, the Cameroon Coalition of Civil Society, of Federalist groups and activists, has been taking some initiatives together with other groups of Anglophones, Anglophone leaders who are in the diaspora. And recently you had a meeting in South Africa. How far have you gone with this initiative, and what are the possible fallouts in terms of resolution of the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest regions?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. Before I proceed, I would like to, if you permit me, express my gratitude to the organizers of an event that we attended in South Africa last month. That was between the 18th and the 20th of April, within a very crucial period of our religious calendar. That's the Easter. There's the Saudi Cameroons Alliance, whose chairperson is Mr. Milan Akpa. And I also want to thank our host. Gratitude go to our host, Ms. Colette. She is the director of the Human Rights Institute of South Africa. She hosted us. And then we had a few guests, including Mr. Rolf Meyer and Mohammed Bamba and Miriam. Rolf is one of the chief, I would say, executive directors and ones who led the conflict from the apartheid government to to democracy in South Africa. He actually was in the same. They worked together with the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. So they were the ones who orchestrated the peace deal that the people in South Africa enjoy today. So those are some of the guests we had. Prior to that, we had a memorandum of understanding about December last year to early January this year, where all various factions, namely the civil society caucus, pro-independence caucus, and the pro-federalism caucus came together to sign a memorandum of understanding being coordinated by, like I said before, the Southern Cameroons Alliance. So these three factions, according to, I would say, a certain level of calculations from the Southern Cameroons Alliance, represent all the ideology that we have in our society today, especially from the North and Southwest region. So to consolidate or to finalize the memorandum of understanding that we signed, this meeting was fixed to take place in South Africa, which we attended, so I could meet face to face and know who is who and see how we address our various positions.
So Mr. Chairman, tell us, what did you discuss in that meeting, and how is it going to happen? How is it going? Because this is where the interest of everyone is. How is it going to have to resolve the conflict? First of all, what did you discuss in that meeting?
Well, the major things that we discussed, they included mainly our differences. We realized that, we have, all of us, from a distance, we have differences. But when we came together, we realized that these differences are minor issues. The most crucial issues are the fact that we all have the right to redress injustice. And we have a lot of things in common that we did talk about, and our collective commitment to secure some sort of, I would say, peace in our community, within the people of former Southern Cameroon. We all resulted to agreeing that we also have the earth. We also realize that we have the earth together to see how our prisoners of conscience that are being jailed in the various prisons in the country could be relieved. And it was I think a 3 days working session, which in the end we came out with very, very strong resolution. And if you don't mind, I can quote word for word our resolutions that we arrived at, and let me just read straight to you rather than making word. So our resolutions that we arrived at, the final actions that have to be taken, we urge the government of Cameroon to initiate a sincere and transparent dialogue process consistent with international standards to resolve the long-standing and widely recognized concerns associated with former Southern Cameroons. So this is just what the first point that we all agreed on. So we're calling on the government to take the responsibility to call for a real dialogue which is far away from what they had a couple of years ago, and they call it a dialogue. We understand all this, and we know that the dialogue that the government called before was some kind of a sham dialogue. But today, we are calling for a genuine dialogue.
All right,
and then we also
Mr. Chairman, let me just come in here a little bit for a short while, sorry. Let's take a look at some interviews now. We'll be right back in a moment to take a look at the other resolutions of the South Africa meeting.
We have made a simultaneous operation in some criminal areas like Elumden, Briketeri, TKC, and Simeyon. So we are going to continue to do so as we are seeing criminality going up. When we can decrease, when we see the criminality going down, so we are going to decrease the operation. But now the criminality is very high in Yaoundé town, and we are there to fight it, and we are going to do it with all the people, with the population and the gendarmes. We have arrested a lot of suspects, and we seize a lot of motorbike, a lot of drugs, and a lot of things that can help people to perform crimes. We are not here only for celebrating National Day or preparing election, but we are also there to send the message that we have to stay in a safe and clean area.
I try to make sure that any occasion that takes place in school, you have at least a paragraph or two that the principal must give it in English. I have an English club that will try to enforce that the children, every Monday when we have assembly, they come up with news, and that news has to be read in English and French.
We are calling for a diocesan synod so that we can ask a question after 75 years of existence as a diocese. What type of Boya diocese do we want? So together with the members of Christ Lay Faithful, the religious, the priest, and myself, we are going to sit and have an evaluation of the state of the diocese. Of course, there are things that are existing in the diocese that are good, that we have to maintain. There are also certain things that we may need to take some decisions and give proposals on how we can live and live better in a united way in communion with one another.
Those were interviews of the week. You're welcome back. Michael Takie, chairman of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, you talked about sincere and transparent dialogue. You're calling for a sincere and transparent dialogue.
Yes. Another call to action point is we invite all stakeholders to commit to a just and inclusive resolution of the conflict. Now, when we talk of all stakeholders, we know that there are many people who would want to assist, who want to get involved. So we are inviting them. We are very open to this. It's not like because we went to South Africa, it's only about us. We are inviting a lot of other people to come in. Any other groups, they are very welcome to join us in resolving this conflict. We call on the international community to support the broad and deeply rooted aspirations of the people of former Southern Cameroon. We understand that there is no way that these things can be handled by a single individual or a single entity. So the international community is absolutely invited as well. We ask for their help, and we know they have the mechanisms, they have the know-how to help. And then finally, we call on the people to stand united in a quest for justice and dignity. We rise from this summit committed to the success of the above resolutions. The path forward may differ, but the direction is one. So we are coming from different factions, different understanding, but we know that we are going to the same direction. We have different ideologies. We have the independentists and the federalists. We have the civil society caucus in the middle. So we are saying that we may be having different ideologies, but we are going to the same direction. Thank you.
You're holding towards the same direction, and the expectation of the people is that they should be able to live in an environment where they are not dictated, their lives are not dictated by gunshots, by killings, by destruction, by ghost town, and all of that. And why not, of course, discrimination and other causes of the situation that we have today.
It's unfortunate, which is why, as you can see, the very first point on our call to action is the government. from especially the federalist point of view, we believe that the issue we have in Cameroon is a national issue. We know that if the government had good faith, they can resolve this problem. And to resolve it, it would include an extremely inclusive, true dialogue, where all to look for ways to resolve this issue. We understand very strongly that the government of Cameroon is the one that holds the knife and the yam, as they put it. If they decide today, this problem will be solved within the quickest, shortest possible time. They themselves, as somebody will think I am only talking about the government. Well, if you have a house burning, any reasonable person will quickly look for where the parents or the person, the adults of that house are. Every parent is the one in charge. And in this case, the government of Cameroon, the government or the regime of President Paul Biya is the one prolonging this situation. They know exactly what to do. We can condemn all the atrocities that are going on the ground. Again, if they get up and say we want to resolve this, what is the problem? They're putting the people at the center of this discussion. This problem will be resolved.
The government also has been saying that it has made a lot of concessions, and those who are on the other side, the civilians, the armed civilians, should be able to do the same and move closer to the center where they can be a point of compromise to restore peace and normalcy in the two crisis-stricken regions. Michael Takie, chairman of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, thank you so much for joining us from London. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can follow the program on our social media handles on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Bless Cameroon. Goodbye.